This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. At this time, the surrounding people also revealed envious and jealous expressions, and one after another shouted, "Human, come to my place and have a look." As if afraid that Yunxiao would be robbed, the seaman dragged him to his stall and showed him the items one by one. Yunxiao had already glanced through the goods in his stall. Although there were many precious items, they were not enough to catch his eyes. After all, these sea race people all wanted to exchange for profound level weapons. The profound level weapons he had were very limited and he wanted to keep them to trade for more valuable things. The marine raceman could not help but feel a little disappointed when he saw Yunxiao shaking his head, but he was already very happy to be able to exchange for an 8th tier medium-grade mystic artifact. Yunxiao and Zhao Wenjuan strolled around slowly and exchanged for a lot of things in no time. The low-grade mystic artifacts they had on them were basically used up. Zhao Wenjuan, on the other hand, rarely made a move. He had only purchased 2 marine products in total, and the prices were extremely low. Obviously, he had seen most of these sea creatures before, and they were not as fresh and surprising as Yunxiao's, so they were not worth much in his eyes. Yunxiao passed by several stalls and stopped for a moment, his face changing constantly. In the end, he sighed and walked away. Zhao Wenjuan found it funny and said, "Young Master Yunxiao must be upset that he didn't bring more profound level weapons with him, right? Primordial stones are useless here, and even primordial cores are worthless. Only profound level weapons are the real currency." Yunxiao shook his head with a wry smile. Indeed. As a 9th tier alchemist, I've never even heard of many heavenly materials and earthly treasures. This is really an eye-opener for me. Fortunately, there's still time. I'll go back to the secret room and refine some more. He had already told Gu Yuesheng to start refining 8th tier profound armaments in large batches. He had thrown all the materials he had on him into the furnace. The profound armaments that the sea tribe needed were almost all of the powerful attack type. It didn't matter if they were a little rough as long as they were of a higher tier. Zhao Wenjuan laughed and said, "I've been at sea for a long time. I've become used to many things. For example, the green jade crystal melon, the morning dew, the silver flame, the 6-leaf ning bug, and so on that young Master Yunxiao just bought. Although these are considered good existences on the sea, they cannot be considered top grade. But once we bring them back to the continent, these things will be even better than top grade raw materials," Yunxiao said. He turned his eyes and suddenly saw half a big clamshell on a stall on the ground, with some bright beads inside. Yunxiao's pupils constricted. He hurried over, took one out, and carefully observed it in his palm. The sea race stall owner's heart was filled with joy. From far away, he could see that this human expert's skills were extraordinary. There were at least 10 8th tier profound armaments in his hands. He immediately stood up and introduced, "My lord, this thing is called the Moon Pearl of the East Sea. Although it's not a supreme treasure, it's still an extremely rare item in the East Sea. If you have these beads to accompany you during cultivation, you can calm your mind and focus, greatly improving your cultivation." It was indeed the Moon Pearl of the East Sea. Yunxiao was overjoyed. There were 18 of them in that half of the clamshell. He had really searched high and low for them, but they had all come to him without any effort. He calmed himself down and said, "How do you want to trade this bead?" The marine race expert was also overjoyed. He said excitedly, "My lord, do you want one or a few?" "All of them," Yunxiao said. "You want all of them?" The marine race expert was stunned. Zhao Wenjuan was also somewhat shocked. Although these beads were not of much use, they were indeed precious items. A total of 18 beads was probably worth a lot. But, every alchemist had their own ideas, so he did not ask too much. The marine race member thought for a moment and said, "These beads are for the merman race to trade. For every 3 of them, we will exchange for an 8th tier profound armament." He looked at Yunxiao nervously, fearing that the price he offered would cause the other party to feel disgusted. Yunxiao gave a long sigh. He had caused a lot of trouble in Red Moon City for these beads, but he did not expect that he could trade one 8th tier mystic artifact for 3. The sea man thought Yunxiao was dissatisfied, so he said hurriedly, any 8th tier profound armament, as long as it's 8th tier. If you can exchange for more, you can get it a little cheaper. I'll trade them all, Yunxiao said. But since you don't have so many 8th tier profound armaments, I will use a 9th tier profound armament to exchange for all of your pearls, how about it? What? The marine race expert was startled. He revealed a shocked expression and said, what did you just say? 9th tier profound armament? Do you really intend to use a 9th tier profound armament to exchange for these beads? His face was filled with shock, clearly not quite believing it. There were only a few 9th tier alchemists in the entire 4 seas, and almost all 9th tier mystic artifacts were collected and treasured by S-class forces, which were impossible to reveal to the outside world. The marine race expert's cry immediately drew the attention of the surrounding people. They were all shocked and gathered around. Yunxiao frowned. He did not expect that the mention of a 9th tier mystic artifact could cause such a big reaction. Zhao Wenjuan's expression changed slightly. He transmitted, profound level weapons are rare among the sea race. A 9th tier profound level weapon is enough to cause a sensation. He paused for a moment and continued, young Master Yunxiao really intends to use a 9th tier profound armament to exchange for these beads, thought. He obviously didn't believe it, thinking that the value of these beads was not worth a 9th tier profound armament. After all, it was very hard for 9th tier alchemists to refine 9th tier mystic artifacts. Yes. Yunxiao nodded and said, these beads are of great use to me. Why are all these sea race people staring at me as if they want to eat me? Zhao Wenjuan laughed bitterly and stood out, shouting, what are you all doing here? Don't tell me that you've forgotten the rules of Xiankong Island, that no one is allowed to interfere with an ongoing transaction in any form. The sea people seem to be very afraid of the rules of Xiankong Island. After giving Yunxiao and the stall owner a few more glances, they left one by one, but their eyes were always on them. The stall owner's expression was gloomy and uncertain. He lowered his voice and said, this friend, do you really have a 9th tier profound armament and you are willing to exchange? Yunxiao nodded. He had killed a lot of martial emperors, and he did have a few of them on him, but they were all low-grade 9th tier items for him, and he had planned to use them to exchange for money. A light flashed in his hand, and a short blade appeared. He handed it over. The stall owner took the knife with both hands in a panic. After a careful sweep of his spirit sense, he confirmed that it was a 9th tier profound armament without a doubt. Although it was slightly damaged, it did not affect its use. As expected, as expected. He called out twice in a row, as if to prove that he was not dreaming. Then, with a wave of his hand, he immediately put away the short blade and handed the half-clamshell to Yunxiao with both hands. Yunxiao was also very happy. He put away all 18 Eastern Sea Moon pearls, his face beaming with joy. After the transaction, the stall owner packed up all the goods on the ground. After bidding Yunxiao farewell, he turned into a beam of light and fled into the distance without saying a word. You don't have to be so cautious, do you? Yunxiao asked in surprise. Zhao Wenjuan smiled bitterly. You won't understand the significance of a 9th tier mystic weapon to the sea race. A 9th tier mystic weapon is enough to cause a large-scale fight among the sea race above class. I'm afraid that person just now is going to be troublesome, but since he dared to exchange with you, he probably has some skills. Sure enough, Yunxiao soon found that many sea people were chasing in the direction where the stall owner had gone. Unless it's at the treasure exhibition, Zhao Wenjuan said. Otherwise, young Master Yunxiao shouldn't take out a 9th tier mystic weapon. Yunxiao smiled wryly. He did not know that much, and he did not have that many 8th tier mystic artifacts with him. He was determined to get the 18 moon pearls of the East Sea. The appearance of a 9th tier profound armament had caused quite a stir in the dark, but it quickly quieted down. After getting the bead, Yunxiao was no longer in the mood to wander around. When he was about to leave, he suddenly heard a quarrel in the distance, and then he heard a familiar voice. Many members of the sea tribe gathered around. The two of them were also curious, so they looked at each other and followed. It turned out that a human and a member of the sea race had their eyes on some materials at the same time, which caused a dispute. The human was none other than Elder Yen of the Battle Blade team. Yunxiao also found it strange. Elder Yen was a rigorous and tactful man, and he rarely had conflicts with others. Elder Yen was smoking his pipe and said, "These purple snow corals have already been reserved by me. You barging in, do you even have the rules of this Xiankong Island in your eyes?" Yunxiao laughed inwardly. Elder Yen is indeed an old fox. He did not mention himself in the dispute, but first brought up the rules of Xiankong Island to pressure the other party. The complexion of a completely white sea tribe warrior, whose meridians and bone armor could be seen through with a glance, changed on the spot. He sternly shouted, "I didn't break the rules. You're just looking at the purple snow coral, can't I buy it? First come, first served. Do you want to go first or should I go first?" Elder Yen sneered. The marine race man was obviously not as eloquent as Elder Yen, and he was immediately at a disadvantage. As he saw more and more people surrounding him, he said anxiously, "Anyway, I didn't break the rules. If you can buy the purple snow coral, I can also buy it. The one with the highest price will get it." "That's right, the one with the highest price will get it." The stall owner's eyes lit up and he hurriedly responded, "Both of you are right, there's no need to argue. How about this, whoever offers the highest price will get it." The transparent sea tribe member was pleased with himself. He took out a piece of mud-like soil and held it in his hand. "I am willing to use 10 gene of seaborne soil and a 7th tier profound level weapon to exchange for these purple snow corals." The stall owner's expression didn't change. It was obvious that he wasn't very satisfied with the two items. He turned to Elder Yen and said, "Human, what about you? If you can take out an 8th tier middle grade profound armament, this purple snow coral will be yours." Elder Yan's face was hidden in the smoke, and his expression could not be seen. But Yunxiao saw it clearly, and he saw the bitter look on the man's face. Yunxiao chuckled in his heart. Elder Yen was a poor cultivator, and his natal mystic artifact was only an 8th tier medium grade mystic artifact. How could he have anything to exchange for it? The stall owner seemed to have noticed his embarrassment and said unhappily, "So you're just a pauper. If you don't have money, then get lost. Why are you still arguing with others? You're wasting everyone's time." Elder Yen was embarrassed and angry. He blew out more smoke to hide his embarrassment. "He's really poor. I thought there would be a good show to watch. In a remote place like the heavenly Martial continent, what kind of treasure can we expect them to offer? Even if the richest of the humans were to come to the Eastern Sea, they would only be below average." The spectating marine race members also revealed disdainful expressions and began to disperse. All of them revealed looks of contempt. The transparent marine race expert revealed a proud expression. He took out another 7th tier profound armament, a long spear, and handed it over. Yunxiao's eyes fell on the purple snow coral in the stall, and his pupils constricted slightly. The so-called purple snow coral was actually similar to the origin crystals used by the sea tribe. It was also an item that stored origin power. The heavens created all things, the work of the gods, the magic was beyond the reach of human power. Although the purple snow coral was an existence that could store elemental energy, it was not dead. It was a living thing like ordinary corals and could move on its own at the bottom of the sea. The elemental energy in their bodies was not formed by nature, but was continuously absorbed by the heavens. The purple snow coral had an extremely sensitive sense of touch and preference for energy. It would automatically judge the level of its ability, and selectively devour and store some powerful energy. After they died, the energy would be deposited and become an existence like origin crystals. However, the energy contained in any piece of purple snow coral was definitely much higher than that of origin crystals, which was also where their value lay. The purple snow coral in the stall of the sea tribe was half the height of a person. It was snow white with some purple spots on it. It lay there quietly, and ordinary people couldn't detect the energy fluctuations inside. But Yunxiao's heart skipped a beat. The power inside the purple snow coral gave him a very familiar feeling. Not only Yunxiao, but Zhao Wenjuan, as a 9th-tier alchemist, also felt that the purple snow coral was a little different from ordinary ones, and he looked surprised. Wait, I want this purple snow coral. Yunxiao finally stood up and walked to the stall, then reached out his hand and touched the coral. Stop! The transparent member of the sea tribe shouted angrily and glared, I've already bought it. Didn't you see? Young Master Yun. When Elder Yan saw who it was, he quickly dispelled the cloud and smoke on his body and saluted. He looked at the purple snow coral with some reluctance and said in a low voice, the power in this coral is not simple. It's definitely worth it to buy it. Yunxiao gave Elder Yan a surprised look. He did not know how the latter could sense it. He nodded slightly, then smiled at the transparent sea tribe member and said, I just heard you say that the highest bidder will get it, is that true? The sea tribe member with a bright body said arrogantly, of course. It's a business deal, of course, the one with the highest price will get it. Zhao Wenjuan sighed, thinking that these people of the sea were indeed much worse than Yunxiao in intelligence. He continued to focus his attention on the purple snow coral and observed it carefully. That's right, Yunxiao said with a smile. I'll offer a higher price, and it'll be mine. This? The transparent member of the sea tribe was unable to react in time. He stood there in a daze. Yes, the one with the highest price will get it, the one with the highest price will get it. The stall owner was overjoyed. He squinted his eyes and grinned from ear to ear. He praised, my lord, you have good eyes. This purple snow coral of mine is a fossil that has been around for hundreds of thousands of years. The energy it contains cannot be underestimated. Hundreds of thousands of years? Both Yunxiao and Zhao Wenjuan were taken aback, and their eyes flickered with surprise. The stall owner touched the surface of the purple snow coral with his hand and pointed at some snowflake-like patterns on it. Look at these marks. They're all fossils that were buried deep in the ocean. From the marks on the surface of their bodies, I can determine that they're at least 300,000 years old. Elder Yan smoked his cigarette and said, however, the longer the time passes, the more the energy inside will be lost. Humph, you know nothing. Although there will be some loss, it's equivalent to a gamble, the stall owner said angrily. There might be an extremely terrifying power inside. I'll offer you an 8th-tier medium-grade mystic artifact, Yunxiao said. As soon as these words were spoken, the expression of the sea tribe member with a bright body suddenly changed, and a fierce light shot out from his eyes. What style is it? The stall owner's eyes lit up. Up to you, Yunxiao said. Follow me? The stall owner was confused. He didn't understand what he meant. The transparent marine race expert sneered, although an 8th-tier intermediate level profound armament is good, but if it's not suitable, what's the use of it? A light flashed in his hand, and a large blade appeared. He grabbed it in his hand and said, this initial 8th-rank silverwood knife and the ocean wave stone. The stall owner's eyes brightened, and he revealed a look of great joy. He stared at the silverwood saber, as if he couldn't bear to part with it. A peak 8th-tier mystic artifact, Yunxiao said. You can choose the style. You're so silly. What do you mean by I can choose whatever style I want? The transparent sea tribe member said angrily. If you have the ability, take it out and let me see. Tell me what you want, Yunxiao said indifferently. As long as it's a peak 8th-tier mystic artifact, I can give it to you. The stall owner was confused, but he still said, it's best if it's a battle saber type. It's 3 feet long and 2 inches wide. It's of the gold element. What else? Yunxiao asked. No, the stall owner shook his head. As long as you can take out such a profound level weapon, this purple snow coral is yours. Yunxiao nodded and stretched out his hand. A golden light flashed, and then a vast power surged out. The cauldron of mountain and river flew out of his palm and turned into the size of an ordinary copper furnace. It floated in the air. The golden light radiated with spiritual energy. The body of the cauldron was engraved with rivers, mountains, flowers, birds, and beasts. They were all very vivid and lifelike.
Ah.
This cauldron. Zhao Wenjuan was shocked and looked at it in shock. He could tell at a glance that this cauldron was not an ordinary item. Not only was it a 9th grade cauldron, but it was also not an ordinary 9th grade cauldron. The vast cauldron energy that came down from above made his blood boil. The marine race members in the surroundings were also shocked. They had never seen such a treasure before. However, the large cauldron was not the type that they liked. Although they were shocked, they did not have any thoughts about it. Zhao Wenjuan was different. He had a fanatical obsession with cauldron weapons. The moment the cauldron appeared, his eyes immediately lit up, and the shock in his heart was revealed on his face without any concealment. This is. All the members of the sea tribe were puzzled. The stall owner frowned and said, "This cauldron is good, but I won't trade it for the purple snow coral. I need a battle saber at the peak of the 8th rank." Yunxiao's face darkened as he cursed in his heart, "This cauldron can be exchanged for 100 islands a worth of purple snow coral, and you still refuse to exchange? I won't exchange even if you kill me." He couldn't be bothered with the marine race expert and simply took out some materials and threw them into the cauldron. The image of a phoenix flame flashed between his brows, and the entire cauldron immediately began to burn with a whooshing sound as it spun in the air. At this time, everyone finally understood that he was actually going to refine it on the spot. One by one, their mouths were wide open in shock and horror. Alchemists were 1 in a million among the sea race, and they had never seen anything like it with their own eyes. Their eyes widened, and they even forgot about their business as they all gathered around. On the other side of the island, Shui Xian and Feiyang were watching the performance of more than 10 members of the sea tribe. It was the fire element armament that she had found again. Run Xiang didn't have time to mess around with her. Only the pitiful Feiyang didn't dare to resist her despotic power, and obediently followed her over to act as a hatchet man. Under the pressure of Feiyang's might, the sea tribe's warriors all displayed their secret techniques. Shui Xian's expression became uglier and uglier, especially after the last performance. Her eyes were as cold as water, flashing with a fierce look. Feiyang could tell that she wasn't satisfied with just one look. He lowered his head and didn't dare to leave, waiting for orders. The last member of the sea tribe was obviously very satisfied with his performance. He said proudly, "Miss Shui Xian, my 1,000-flame phoenix is a godly technique. In the world today, there is no fire-type sacred art that is better than mine. Are you satisfied?" Shui Xian's face turned even uglier. Just as she was about to flare up, she suddenly sensed something, which made her heart skip a beat. She was shocked and quickly turned her head to look in the direction of the market. Whoosh! She immediately turned into a ray of light and flew towards the market. Feiyang was shocked and didn't know what was going on, but he still followed after him hurriedly. The dozen or so cultivators who were left behind looked at each other and frowned. One of them said, "What's with Miss Shui Xian's attitude? He didn't even say he was satisfied or not, and he just left without expressing his attitude. Isn't that too rude? Manners? Didn't you see Miss Shui Xian's face? You're lucky that I didn't slap you to death." That's right. The strength of the sea tribe member beside her is too terrifying. Just the aura she released was enough to suffocate me. It's good that she's gone. I'll hurry back. Damn it, I used all my strength to cast the divine art. I thought I could get the beauty's favor, but I didn't even get a fart. How disappointing. You want to spy on Miss Shui Xian with that little strength of yours? Why don't you take a look at your own toad-like face? The last member of the sea tribe laughed maliciously. A cold light flashed in his eyes as he stared in the direction that Shui Xian had flown in. He was deep in thought. What did you say, kid? I'm from the sea toad clan, not a toad from the land. The sea toad expert shouted in anger. The lumps on his body exploded one by one, and a violent aura spread out, locking onto the sea race expert who had used the last magical ability. It was as if he was going to declare war. The sea clan member's face turned cold, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. He said coldly, "You're really blind, you actually dare to be rude to this lord." His eyes burst out with a cold intent, and a faint flame covered his body. Just his aura alone was enough to break the sea toad's pressure. Furthermore, this person's face began to change. His originally delicate and pretty face gradually turned into a triangular beast, revealing a cold and gloomy expression. "Arg. You're." The sea toad's face suddenly contorted and changed shape, revealing a look of horror. The arrogance from before was gone, and he was so scared that he almost knelt down.